French President Emmanuel Macron heading to Egypt amid accusations that France is helping to impoverish Africa. Why the suspension of Nigeria's Chief Justice is raising eyebrows weeks to national elections. And the World Health Organization warns that insecurity in affected DRC regions is making the Ebola outbreak to spread fast. Hello and a warm welcome to Africa Live. I am Peninah Karibe. Let's have a look at other stories lined up this hour. Tunisian businesswomen seek ways of overcoming barriers in growing their enterprises. And how the establishment of marine protected zones could help African countries offset their external debts. French President Emmanuel Macron is heading to Egypt in what will become his first visit of his presidency to the North African state. The trip aims to strengthen ties between the two countries and commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Suez Canal opening. Helena Casas reports from Paris.
President Macron aims to sign various business and defence contracts. Much of the focus is on whether the Egyptian government decides to follow through with the 2015 arms deal, giving it the option to buy 12 Rafale military planes from France in a significant deal for the French armaments industry. That sale was held up by objections from Washington and is opposed by human rights groups who say France must stop selling arms to Egypt. The French presidency now says they don't expect that contract to be signed during this visit. The previous French president, François Hollande, came under fire for continuing to sell arms to Egypt while ignoring human rights questions, and Macron doesn't want to be seen as going down the same road. When the two men last met here in Paris in October 2017, Macron gave the Egyptian president a list of names of activists he thought should be released from prison. He's now under pressure to keep up that hard line on human rights without upsetting Sisi too much. The French presidency has sent the Egyptian government a list of human rights questions they hope it will find it hard to dismiss. The visit comes as France's role in Africa has come under criticism lately, notably in a row between the French and Italian governments, sparked when the Italian Deputy Prime Minister Luigi Di Maio accused France of continuing to play a colonial role in the region. Elena Casas, CGTN, Paris.
All following accusations made by senior Italian officials claiming France was orchestrating trouble in Libya, as well as causing poverty in Africa and illegal migration to Europe, Tunisian politicians have denounced Italy's assertions. Experts argue both Italy and France are responsible for the social, economic and political crises in many African nations.
Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini accused France of causing unrest and instability in Libya because of what he described as France's energy interests there, which clashed with those of his country. The head of International Relations Commission at the Arab Parliament in Tunis said that both Rome and Paris were responsible for the instability in the North African state.
Some of the arguments about France are right, because it intervened militarily in Libya. But they're also valid for Italy. Any Italian politician should first blame his country for colonizing and plundering Libya for decades. The tension between the two European countries started after the fall of Gaddafi to control Libya's natural resources.
Salvini and other Italian officials also said that France is behind poverty in Africa. The accusations shocked both authorities and the public opinion in France. Experts believe the spread of the phenomenon of migration from Africa to Europe is a shared responsibility between EU allies.
France colonized many African countries and took their wealth. Tunisia is still selling in 2019 a ton of salt for less than 1 cent. It is the same price as in 1956. France still behaves as a colonial power, but Italy has the same ambition. Both have impoverished Africa and caused the flow of migrants. The migration crisis is the responsibility of France, Italy, and all the EU member states.
Analysts believe that the rise of the far right in Italy and Europe in general will lead to more radical positions towards migrants within the EU, as well as extreme economic and security policies in Africa. Alan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
CGTN's Cairo correspondent Adel Mahri has more on Macron's visit to Egypt. Adel, what's the significance of the visit to Egypt by the French President Emmanuel Macron?
Well, it's a very important visit to Cairo. Macron's visit re-strengthens the already strong foundation between Cairo and Paris, and he comes as a first visit to Egypt. That's why there are a lot of governmental interest to make it a great success. Already there's been a huge delegation from the French government who have been holding discussions with Egyptian officials, Egyptian ministers, and even the president himself has met the French Minister of Finance to discuss and finalize economic agreements that will take place once Macron arrives on Sunday. He will be staying in Egypt for about 3 days. There is a huge foundation of military cooperation. Egypt and France in recent years, especially when President El-Sisi was elected as president, the relations have been phenomenally strong. The military relations have increased tremendously. Billions of dollars of agreements have been signed between both countries in the arms sector alone. French has given Egypt several heavy artilleries. Egypt was one of the first countries ever in the world to receive the French fighter jets at the Rafale, beside the maritime frigates and helicopter carriers. So in every sense, whether it was Prince Francois Hollande or President Macron now, Cairo is very keen to strengthen these ties with France and make sure that they will keep on being stronger. That's why it has given a huge attention from the president himself, and both countries are expected to sign several economic deals when the president arrives.
Now, this visit by Macron comes amid strong accusations by Italy that France is aiding the underdevelopment of Africa. How is this issue being perceived in Egypt?
Well, when we talk on the political side specifically, and we compare the relations between Cairo, Rome, and Cairo and Paris, definitely Cairo will be more in favor of the French government. There has been a lot of tensions between Cairo and Italy, especially on several cases, the human rights issue of the researcher Giulio Regeni and the support in Libya. Both Egypt and Italy support rival sides in the Libyan government, where Italy was clearly supporting the Western and the UN-backed government. Egypt has been quite a vocal supporter of the Eastern powers, General Khalifa Haftar and the Eastern government. And that's why when it comes to such accusations as the one you've mentioned, Cairo has not publicly commented on them. But if Cairo will have to choose sides, it may be clear which side it will take, especially that it has not felt any of these accusations that Italy is throwing at France towards Egypt itself. France has been quite a supporter of building the Egyptian economy. Investments have been growing. One of France's leading telecom company is a very big company here in Egypt. So the relations on all levels have been quite growing, and Cairo has been perceiving Paris as a strong supporter to its development. Both France is actually the 11th biggest trade partner for Egypt, and both countries have been repeatedly repeating their interest to make this partnership grow bigger.
All right, Adel, thank you very much for that update. Adel Mahri live in Cairo. Let's move to South Sudan now, and the body set up by the African Union to monitor implementation of the peace deal, the RJMEC, has urged all parties to prioritize the unification of their armed forces. This is ahead of the scheduled formation of a unity government this May. CGTN's Patrick Oyet reports.
Number 4.
The revitalized Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission, or RJMEC, is tasked with assessing whether South Sudan's peace deal is actually being implemented, and it says the biggest challenge now is reforming the security sector.
It is very important that all the armed forces of South Sudan are unified. With the rapid approach of the transitional period, their unification will be a decisive milestone for this agreement, which is why no effort should be spared in achieving this.
The peace deal provides for the formation of a unity government by May this year. However, the parties to the peace deal say there aren't yet enough funds available to push the process forward, and they are urging the international community for help.
We are tasked to also find office premises, accommodation, and staffing for the vice presidents, starting with the first VP and maybe 2 other VPs. They need to be attended to. That one is also a task to be carried out. We have also to find premises, accommodation, and staffing for the new 5 ministries.
The international community is, however, saying it wants to see better management of resources by South Sudan's government before they can put in more money. They are also asking for transparency over how Juba is spending the money it earns from the sale of the country's crude oil. Another challenge is that there are some armed groups still fighting South Sudan's government. Juba says it's open to negotiation with those holdout factions.
We are in peace. We don't want to mention names, but you can agree with me, who are still fighting, you know them. And so if you have a contact, because they are very sympathetic with you, talk to them that the peace has come to the country. Help us with your best language, that please persuade them.
There are also new reports of alleged rape in Bentiu in the northern part of the country by armed men. The government says it will investigate. South Sudan's government says it needs up to $60 million for security sector reforms alone, and experts say post-war reconstruction funds will also have to be found to build the livelihoods of South Sudanese people in order for a lasting peace to return to the country. Patrick Oyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has suspended the country's embattled Chief Justice Walter Onogen a day after a court of appeal ruled against his trial by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The Chief Justice has been accused of under-declaring his personal wealth, contrary to mandatory requirement for public servants. Nigeria's main opposition party has halted its presidential election campaign for 72 hours in protest to the suspension of the country's Chief Justice. Now, meanwhile, opposition presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has been in Kaduna State to sell his agenda. Atiku has emerged as the biggest challenger to incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari in what analysts say will be a 2-horse election race.
Atiku Abubakar's arrival in the capital of Kaduna State sought to assure residents of this restive northern region that he means well.
Now I want to ask you people the truth. How many of you here will vote for PDP? People of Kaduna, what I'm begging you of is, when you go to vote on election day, from the bottom to the top, vote for PDP, vote for PDP.
It is a state that has gained the reputation as the seat of violence. Violence that continues to pose a challenge to successive governments of Nigeria. Maiduguri happens to be the epicenter of Boko Haram's frequent attacks, while Kano witnesses frequent blasphemy-related violence. However, Kaduna could be the melting pot of both sectarian and communal conflicts, mostly between herders and farmers. This has resulted in many deaths and displacements. In his campaign, Atiku Abubakar is seeking to assure residents of this northern region that his government will be different.
If you vote in PDP, we assure you of a bright future. We shall help you with a good job and a good life. These are the things we promise you.
Atiku, who is a former vice president and governor, has emerged as a formidable opponent of President Muhammadu Buhari, and his PDP party is vowing to unseat the current president.
I want to say this to you all.
Buhari must go. Buhari must go. Buhari must go. APC must go.
Nigeria goes to the polls on February 19th. This is an eagerly awaited election both at home and away, for it might be full of surprises. Just like the 2015 one, in which then incumbent Goodluck Jonathan lost to an opposition candidate. Laura Walubengo, CGTN.
Now, there are only 22 days left before voters in Nigeria go to the polls, but fears of possible election violence seem to be on the rise. Nigeria's Minister for Information, Lai Mohammed, says politicians are funding groups of armed gangs and Boko Haram to disrupt elections throughout the country. CGTN's Kelechi Emekalam has more.
We do not need to frame the opposition.
An incriminating claim against opposition politicians by the Information Minister, Lai Mohammed. He has refused to provide names or how government is planning to avert the anticipated violence, but his claims reinforce growing fears of another election violence.
We have credible intelligence that armed bandits and Boko Haram insurgents have been mobilized to engage in massive attacks and other acts of violence in several states across the country, including but not limited to Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Benue, Kano, Kaduna, Nasarawa, Plateau, Taraba, and Zamfara.
The U.S. government has also cautioned its citizens living in Nigeria about potential violence around elections. The alert on the embassy's website claims ISIL and its West African affiliates, ISWAP, plan to target government installations and crowded areas to disrupt elections. And that threat is not restricted to the northeast, where Boko Haram or ISIL in West Africa province is known to operate. And security analysts here believe there's a real threat of violence.
The type of money they pay them at the National Assembly alone will make anybody to want to go there. The type of power they accrue to themselves will want to make anybody to go there. The type of publicity they receive will want to make anybody to go there at all costs.
Nigerians will go to vote from mid-February to the 2nd of March. Political seats ranging from the presidency to lawmakers and gubernatorials are all hotly contested, mostly between the ruling All Progressives Congress and the oldest political party, the PDP, pitching to retake power. Even though they've all signed a peace pact to avert violence, many observers feel they're not walking the talk. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN, Abuja, Nigeria.
Time for us to take a quick break. Here's what's still ahead. The World Health Organization warns that insecurity in affected DRC regions is making the Ebola outbreak to spread fast, and how the establishment of marine protected zones could help African countries offset their external debts.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Turning to the Democratic Republic of Congo, the World Health Organization is warning that the Ebola outbreak is spreading fast and into regions affected by insecurity. Most of the areas that could be hit by the disease lie in the south. Here's more on that.
The ongoing political events in the Democratic Republic of Congo could have made the situation of Ebola take a backseat. But the World Health Organization has a chilling reminder. The disease is spreading southwards to areas that might be a challenge to access due to insecurity. Most of the recent cases reported since the beginning of the year have been concentrated in the Katwa health zone. But efforts by the WHO to intervene have been met with some resistance.
The Ministry of Health and WHO and partners have continued to face challenges in the containment and control of the Ebola virus disease in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The number of reported cases increased during recent weeks, most notably from two new health zones, Katwa health zone, where response teams have faced pockets of community mistrust. The outbreak also has extended southwards to Peninah health zone, a high security risk area.
The death toll from the disease currently stands at 439 deaths confirmed. 713 people are believed to be infected. North Kivu's Beni area has seen a marked reduction in the spread of the disease, but it's not yet time to pop the champagne.
On sait qu'il y a énormément de défis, ce n'est pas facile.
We know there are a lot of challenges and that this is not easy, but we absolutely want to stay in the field until we can declare the end of this outbreak. For now, I think it's very premature to declare victory. It's true that we had some success in Beni because all the measures we've taken have yielded results, but unfortunately, we are seeing other cases turn up in other areas of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
More than 60,000 Congolese and 2,500 Ugandans have been vaccinated against the viral disease. However, Eastern Congo is also faced with other challenges apart from a long-drawn conflict.
Le pays, malheureusement, est en train de faire face.
Unfortunately, the country is not only facing Ebola but other health threats as well, which include malaria, cholera, polio, or more precisely, vaccine-derived polio, but also a very long humanitarian crisis and a lot of violence in several regions of the country.
After a recent simulation exercise in the neighboring Rwanda, the World Health Organization is deploying more workers in the affected regions to combat the spread of Ebola. Dina Matengo, CGTN.
In Ghana, authorities say at least 10 people have died in a hospital after being injected with vaccines intended to save their lives. They were all snake bite victims. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai reports.
The 10 who died after receiving treatment were among 50 people rushed to the hospital in the Upper West region of Ghana after they were bitten by snakes. The vaccine, however, proved bogus. Doctors say they have not been receiving supplies from their government source, the Ghana Health Service, for some time and had to resort to purchasing vaccines from local pharmacies to treat snake bites. According to the hospital, the victims each received between 5 and 10 doses. The deaths were attributed to the drug's ineffectiveness. Moving forward, Regional Minister Alhaji Alasan Sulemana said he would facilitate provision of proper vaccines to the hospital from the Ghana Health Service. The Northern region and Upper West region of Ghana record high cases of snake bites every year. In 2018, the country ran short of anti-snake serum, prompting health experts to call for research into the government manufacturing its own vaccines to deal with the situation. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
In Tunisia, a new inheritance bill is being pushed by President Beji Caid Essebsi. It proposes that the inheritances of men and women be made equal. It would only be counted if the person making the will went through clear legal channels to state otherwise. Many women receive less than their male counterparts.
Tunisian divorcee Latifa counts herself lucky. It is rare for a woman in Tunisia to inherit land. However, after escaping a violent marriage, she now enjoys a small parcel of land that was passed down to her by her father. Latifa is counting on her 3 brothers to let her stay on the land she occupies after her father dies.
It's in the interest of the man that the inheritance stays like that. It's hard for him to get 1 share when he is used to taking 2 shares. Now he will have to share equally. He will never accept it.
A bill to equalize inheritance rights between men and women has created debate in the countryside.
Personally, I wish my daughters won't get tired. At least I want to give them something that they do not suffer like I did. And I hope this law will be enforced and that all women claim their rights before the law.
A country's inheritance law currently provides that a son receive twice as much as a daughter from a father's estate.
I'm not convinced by this bill how there can be equality in the inheritance between the woman and the man. It has always been 2 parts for the man and 1 part for the woman. This is what was passed down to us by our grandfathers and the elders, which has always been 1 part for the woman and 2 parts for the man.
The current law should safeguard Latifa's future, who is entitled to 3,500 square meters out of a total estate of 40,000. But in rural areas, the law is rarely applied, male heirs often taking considerably more than double their female counterparts.
Women do not get anything that has value and that does not become devalued by time. So they are the poorest. They only have their work. So when a woman is retired or sick, she has no income and therefore finds herself in a precarious situation.
A woman who makes her claim is often silenced by a small sum of money or a basket of produce every now and then. The now proposed inheritance bill has reopened a debate on the place of religion in Tunisian society.
I think it is a discourse that is legitimized by religious norms of behaviors and traditions that are embedded in human societies, which includes a patriarchal tradition on which the entire world is based upon, actually the totality of the universe.
Many people are said to cite the Quran to demand a 2/3 inheritance. However, when it comes to paying a 10% obligation of one's income as alms to the poor, they remain reluctant. Laura Walubengo, CGTN.
The establishment of marine protected zones is being promoted as an innovative way in which African countries may rid themselves of some of their debt problems. Last year, Seychelles made history when it swapped over $27 million of its sovereign debt in exchange for designating 30% of its ocean a marine protected zone. This finance scheme was brokered by international environmental group, the Nature Conservancy, who have been lobbying for much greater conservational efforts in the Indian Ocean. CGTN's Travis Andrews tells us more.
The Indian Ocean is rich in biodiversity and is home to thousands of marine species, including whales, fish and corals, which all play a significant role in boosting local tourism sectors. But the ocean is susceptible to issues such as global warming, greenhouse gases, overfishing and petroleum extraction, all of which play a role in industrialization and economic growth, which are important for jobs in Africa. They do, though, also have negative environmental effects, which is why the Nature Conservancy believes debt relief for marine protection is not only limited to the successful model in the Seychelles.
I think the idea of doing a national debt swap for marine conservation can be replicated across almost any country in Africa. A lot of these countries, particularly the small island developing states like Seychelles, they have large debt loads and they have a very narrow economy with which to pay back that debt. So by helping them restructure their debt in exchange for conservation creates a big window of opportunity.
Such as boosting marine ecotourism, which relies heavily on having a healthy ocean to attract visitors below and above the waters. South Africa has recently created 20 new marine parks to protect the country's ocean biodiversity, but only increases protection to 5% of its ocean, when a far greater figure is being targeted.
A lot of the work that's been done around the world is actually a 30% commitment by some of these countries to protect 30% of their ocean for climate change, for sustainable fisheries. And so that's kind of a target. Usually there's a land target as well as an ocean target, but the 30% ocean protection is somewhat of a standard, I would say. It's sort of a benchmark that a lot of these countries get started on. And that's because of the fact that our oceans today are largely unprotected.
The Western Cape is one region which has to strike a fine balance between commercial and conservational interests in its coastline. Its task does become trickier as the region's economy develops and grows. More and more African countries are becoming far more proactive on issues like climate change and protecting their biodiversity, so the debt concept is likely not to fall on deaf ears. Even so, some challenges do exist. For one, the fishing sector could be impacted, especially across Africa, where small-scale subsistence fishermen rely heavily on catches. And even with ocean acidification, overfishing and dumping of toxins, caution still needs to be heeded.
We need to be looking at all options, but when developing countries enter into debt swaps and so on, we need to be very vigilant that there are no long-term things that will come to bite you in your back.
There are, though, marine strategies, such as ocean zoning plans that could assist countries such as South Africa, where growing the ocean's economy has become key to growth, but where maintaining a sustainable debt burden is just as important. Ravs Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
Let's break up our top stories this hour. French President Emmanuel Macron is heading to Egypt in what will become his first visit of his presidency to the North African state. The trip aims to strengthen ties between the two countries and commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Suez Canal opening. President Macron aims to sign various business and defense contracts while in Egypt. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has suspended the country's embattled Chief Justice Walter Onnoghen a day after Court of Appeal ruled against his trial by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The Chief Justice has been accused of under-declaring his personal wealth, contrary to mandatory requirement for public servants. With only days left to national polls, Nigeria's main opposition party has halted its presidential election campaign for 72 hours in protest to the suspension of the country's Chief Justice. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the World Health Organization is warning that the Ebola outbreak is spreading fast and into regions affected by insecurity. Most of the areas that could be hit by the disease lie in the south. Majority of the recent cases reported since the beginning of the year have been concentrated in the Katwa Health Zone, but efforts by the WHO to intervene have been met with some resistance. And the establishment of marine protected zones is being promoted as an innovative way in which African countries may rid themselves of some of their debt problems. Last year, Seychelles made history when it swapped over $27 million of its sovereign debt in exchange for designating 30% of its ocean a marine protected zone. And that's a wrap of our top stories. Ahead in business news. Tunisian businesswomen seek ways of overcoming barriers in growing their enterprises.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
The Women Economic Forum has been held in Tunisia's capital. The event focuses on promoting investments by women for women. Many Tunisian women have shown that they are capable entrepreneurs, but they still run into several barriers in growing their enterprises, including barriers to finance.
Participants in the 22nd Global Edition of the Women Economic Forum agreed that funding, capacity building and access to markets are key factors to ensure women's empowerment.
The forum gathers over 100 participants from 23 countries. It aims to boost dialogue and trade between women in all fields and establish the basis of women's networks in the entire world so as to create investment opportunities and enhance women's economic empowerment.
Recounting their experiences, female entrepreneurs and officials of financial institutions and associations attending the forum said access to funding remains a handicap for several women seeking to launch their own businesses.
Funding is the main challenge facing any woman entrepreneur. She could have a great idea, but it will not see light unless banks and financial institutions are involved in the process. The role of state institutions and the private sector is to facilitate funding and to give guarantees on behalf of women entrepreneurs.
The founder and global chairperson of All Ladies League and Women Economic Forum in India said that Tunisia has the legal framework to become an international hub for women empowerment.
If you have the political vision and you have the political will, I think you have everything, all advantages to turn Tunisia into a hub for trade, for culture, for tourism, for Europe, for Africa, for the Arab region, and why not invite the Asian countries as well.
The Tunisian government has implemented an ambitious strategy aiming to reduce social and economic gaps in order to build rural women's capacities. Draft laws are underway to promote the economic empowerment of women and to get them out of the early agricultural work spectrum. Since 2016, when the Female Economic Initiative program began, 2,300 women's projects have been funded with a budget of about $5 million in different economic sectors such as industry, agriculture, services, trade and handicrafts. The number of these projects is expected to reach 8,000 in 2020. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
Zimbabwe is still reeling from deadly protests that broke out nearly 2 weeks ago. They were triggered by the government's decision to hike fuel prices by an average of 150%. Business owners are also counting their losses, with some needing thousands of dollars to restock and repair their outlets.
There's been a severe shortage of dollars and basic commodities in Zimbabwe. Growing anger at the government's inability to change has led to violent protests across the country. Zimbabweans took to the streets, striking against a recent 150% fuel hike. Several people died during violent clashes that followed. And now business owners say some protesters have taken advantage of the situation.
They started looting the groceries, till points, computers, some meat from the butchery section, and all other assortment of goods that we stock in our shop. As far as the value of the stock that we lost, we are still calculating, but what I can tell you offhand, it's quite a huge figure, which I'm sure by the look of the shelves, you can easily tell that most of the stocks were looted. So I can actually put it at, say, 50% of the stocks were looted.
Mutero estimates that it will take about $500,000 to replenish their stolen inventory and carry out repairs on the premises. A daunting task in a country where companies are struggling to import raw materials and equipment. Businesses are forced to buy dollars on the black market.
It's quite a huge loss, because right now we are not trading, but we need to pay our salaries, we need to pay CESA, we need to pay the council, we need to pay the suppliers themselves. We have got stock which was looted, but in our agreement terms, they need to be paid.
Critics say the country is reverting to the authoritarian rule that characterized the previous regime. With inflation at its highest since 2008 and a shortage of cash in circulation, a fragile state of the economy is at the heart of the country's political troubles. Laura Walubengo, CGTN.
3 years ago, 3 young Nigerian entrepreneurs set up an online savings and investment startup. It targets low and middle class earners in the West African oil producer. Fast forward to 2019, their startup, called Piggy Banking, is now handling savings and investments worth millions of dollars. CGTN's Deju Badmas reports.
Piggybank.ng is basically the tech version of the age-old piggy bank. It's an automated online savings platform that helps users achieve their savings or investment goals. Through its unique autosave, quick save and save log features, users can make deposits of small amounts on a daily, weekly, monthly or annual basis. These deposits are automatically taken from their bank accounts with no upfront fees.
When you open a bank account in Nigeria, you open it and then you get your ATM card, your withdrawal slip. And so even if you decide to put aside money into a bank account, you would still be able to get it out. But Piggy Bank, the special differentiating factor is that we enforce that people should save for at least 3 months before then having access to their money for free. So we have 4 withdrawal days in a year, like once a quarter. And you can set those dates by yourself. Outside of those days, if you try to withdraw, we'll charge you a 5% penalty fee on the amount you're about to take out.
Beyond just savings, piggybank.ng helps users to make risk-free investments, offering higher rates than are available in commercial banks.
We operate an asset under management model. So in that model, what happens is people save with us, people withdraw, but there's a balance left with us at the end of the month, and that balance is invested into fixed income instruments, right? Treasury bills, government bonds, securities. And the interest that we get, we then share with our users, right? So as it is, we offer 10 to 12.4% interest on money saved on piggy bank, which is more than 3 times what a commercial bank would offer the average Nigerian. In its first year, piggybank.ng had only 324 people signed up to its initiative, saving around $58,000. But 2 years after that, the number of clients increased to over 100,000 people with savings of around $12 million. The future of piggy bank for us is to become a digital financial warehouse, and I'll explain. Right now, today, we are into savings, right? But we understand that the young people that we serve, the people that we serve, they're in need of much more than savings. They're in need of insurance, they're in need of pension, they're in need of like investment opportunities, they're in need of like even just budget tracking. So we are going to bring all of those products to them inside of Piggy Bank. The initiative of the 3 young Nigerian graduates back in 2016 is now gradually growing into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. And the potentials are huge when you consider the vast amount of Nigerians that are still unbanked. Deja Badmore, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
In the Republic of Congo, one young woman is doing her best to save the environment and earn a living at the same time. Julita Gorgeous recycles paper to create various unique accessories. She hopes to encourage others to be more aware of environmental pollution by giving waste a new productive life. Let's take a look at some of her creations.
All of Julita's creations are handmade, from necklaces and bracelets to rags and bags.
I like to give life to old discarded things, hence the inspiration to create jewelry from plastic bottles or paper. I can make almost anything, from flower pots to other home decor and accessories. I use glass bottles to make coasters. Even old t-shirts can be restyled as unique jewelry.
Tout objet de décoration de maison.
Julita isn't making a living for herself. She's teaching other women how to recycle waste as goods that can be sold, helping them start their own businesses.
I came to Julieta's workshop to learn how to reuse old clothing. In less than a month, I learned how to make necklaces. Now I not only sell them, I don't even buy my own jewelry anymore. I only recycle.
I make necklaces and rugs from old t-shirts and sell them. It's amazing because I'm able to earn money from waste.
Julita's creations cost between $9 and $187. She's hoping to partner with other eco-campaigns in Congo and throughout Africa. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead. How one craftsman is reviving interest in an ancient musical instrument in West Africa.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Let's go to Senegal now, where one man is on a mission to preserve historical musical instruments. Alion Ndiaye is seeking to revive the thumb piano, an instrument that has been gradually disappearing in parts of Africa.
Alion Ndiaye builds and repairs string instruments in Senegal. His biggest work has taken 4 years. He has been making these ancient instruments known here as the kalimba. It was used in the past, especially during rituals.
When it first appeared, kalimba was not only used to make music or just to have fun. At first, there was neither Christianity nor Islam, and Africans were animists. So to perform rituals, Africans used kalimbas. They also used them to heal certain diseases. Our ancestors played transmissible music to connect with the spirits. There was also educational music because at the time, there were no schools and everyone was taught with kalimbas.
The kalimba is made from ebony wood. Each one takes about 4 days to manufacture. The musical instrument costs between $20 and $80 depending on their size.
The kalimba has value. The sound it produces is very special, and when you hear it, you have the impression that it's coming out of the water. That is what gives it mystical powers, and I dream that one day all Africans will join me in this quest to revive the use of the instrument.
Percussion instruments have a strong influence in Senegalese culture, and Diaye's work is highly valued.
Alouane Diaye is adding value to Senegalese craftsmanship and culture. He's a craftsman who manufactures African instruments that have existed since the dawn of time. He embodies great satisfaction and pride for Senegal. Unfortunately, he develops his talent in a workshop that does not match his immense skill.
Diaye has also mastered playing the thumb piano. He is preparing to take the instrument on a European tour with his band. Tuli Shabalala, CGTN.
In Nigeria, a local artist, Gani Taiwo, hopes the art he creates in the slums of Lagos will promote development and give a level of dignity to the city's poor.
Gani Taiwo is brushing up on his latest project at a slum in Lagos. The artist and social activist hopes his colorful paintings will improve the settlement's profile.
Everywhere is beautiful in as much as the fact that you can add a concept to it, not destroying it. So I feel like, okay, the bathroom toilet is a public toilet. Let us make it something good, something cool, so that people can even come around, the children around on the street, snap their photograph whenever they're having their birthday parties or the kind of ceremony around there. So they can usually use the walls for all this kind of snapping, background, and those things. So I decided to say, okay, let me use a different dimension.
Taiwo is also a volunteer with the Nigeria Slum and Informal Settlement Federation. The organization advocates for the urban poor in 144 communities across Nigeria. The federation is currently building biofill toilets in several informal settlements. Toilets in the area come as a relief as waste was previously being flushed into the coastal city's waterways.
The only toilet here, you know, this canal, whereby people normally go to the canal and throw their excreta to the canal. But if they can make this one to be numerous, it's only 1 year around here, and it's not sufficient. It is insufficient for the environment here.
Before these toilets, the rain would cause floods that would carry all the feces we would throw into the canal back in our homes. There was a horrible acidic smell and we would get sick from various diseases. I have just come back from the hospital, but my daughter is still sick.
In 2016, the government began demolishing and forcefully evicting waterfront settlement communities. There have been peaceful protests since then and calls for a more sustainable approach.
Instead of you sending us away, you can come around, see what is the problem, and try to upgrade. You know, you upgrade the slum. You don't send the slum people away. You upgrade it. You bring about a development. The social amenities that were supposed to be there, water, good road.
Nigeria has one of the world's highest rates of poverty, with more than 50% of its population of 180 million people being poor. Brian Toussaint, CGTN.
The city of Cape Town in South Africa has hosted a Chinese senior citizens event ahead of celebrations to mark the Chinese New Year. Let's take a look.
This event allowed senior Chinese people in Cape Town to participate in the approaching festivities by watching Chinese traditional art performances. Members from the Cape Town Hua Zing Arts Group and the Chinese Women Association in Cape Town showcased a number of performances such as the Dragon and Lion Dance, Tai Chi, a Chinese tea ceremony, and a folk dance known as the Ode of Pear Flowers. Cape Town Mayor Dan Plato gave out the customary red envelopes as a sign of good luck in the coming year.
It's just a wonderful occasion for Cape Town and the Chinese community in Cape Town, just to touch base and to share this occasion with one another. It's a beautiful occasion, but also on the Chinese events calendar, the Spring Festival and that sort of thing, the New Year. I know how important these events, these cultural events is for the Chinese people. And my office to be part of that, I'm honored. I'm really very, very honored to share this platform with the Chinese people today. I hope this event will do wonders relationship-wise to strengthen the ties between Cape Town, the Cape Townian community, the Chinese community.
I would like to take this chance to extend my New Year greetings to all the Chinese who are living, studying, working in Cape Town. I wish them a prosperous Year of Pig.
The Chinese diplomat emphasized the importance of a good relationship between the people of China and South Africa and hoped it would grow deeper.
Coming up in sports.